I'm an author, and often people ask me, like, why did I decide to become an author? And I didn't really plan it that way. But this town is a very creative town. I spent 20 years or so in radio in the Concord Lakes region, working for stations like JYY and The Wolf, and I've been doing a lot of I've been writing poetry forever, and I came to Warner to settle down because my wife was living here when we got married. I moved to town, and I've been able to meet all these creative folks, and Warner really it's a great town because it is the quintessential melting pot, as they say the country is supposed to be. We've got the attorneys and the farmers, and we have the doctors and the authors and the artists and all these folks who, there's older folks who've retired, there's younger folks who are coming into town, raising their kids, going to Simons or being part of the WYSA, the Warner Youth Sports Association I was part of for a number of years. Like, there's just so many different people, and it's just it's a comforting, creative, welcoming community. There's a couple of different authors and illustrators here in town that I've gotten to know over the years. David Elliott, and I've known for probably 10 or 12 years now. True Kelly is just a little ways from me. David Carroll is in downtown. You've got all these folks, and I got to meet Tommy DePaulo when he was living up in New London before he passed away. We would bump into each other at Market Basket. We'd see each other at writers' conferences, and you start to develop relationships, and you learn from people, whether you plan on learning or whether you realize you're learning or not, just by being around creative folks, which is why I'm part of a group called Kidlet 603, which is a bunch of authors and illustrators from around the state of New Hampshire. Jamie Kristoff and Adi Rule and Deborah Bruss and Marty Kelly and Lita Judge and all these folks from all over the state. We meet sometimes here in town. We meet in other places around the state. And it's just, again, it's sort of a microcosm of that melting pot that is New Hampshire and is the country. I have lived in a whole bunch of different places. Being in radio, you bounce around. The joke in radio is that there's actually only 6 people in the entire radio business, and we all just move around from station to station. And so I've actually moved my ex-wife and daughters, and now my wife now, and our 2 kids, between all the moving around, probably 13 different places between New Hampshire, Nashville, Tennessee, and Vermont. And we're settled. I'm not moving. And it's not. I'm not just saying I'm not moving because I don't want to move. But I'm not moving because I really feel comfortable with Warner. Warner is just a very comfortable place. It's a thriving little community. It's made up of so many different types of folks, from the doctors and attorneys to the farmers and the creative folks. And I feel very creative in this community. Maybe it's the people that I've gotten to meet, and maybe it's just living in the country. I grew up in the woods. I grew up in Ware. It's still a dirt road where I grew up. So and there was a creek in the back, a little pond in the back, and what do you know? There's a brook behind our house here. So it's very familial and familiar and comfortable and creative and welcoming and all the things that a creative person needs.